It's been 9 years since I was officially told I was insulin resistant, and I still remember exactly how it felt. I remember it in my bones. I remember eating carbohydrates, even healthy ones, and just feeling like I was putting on weight, almost by the minute. I remember eating a meal, and then, within 30 minutes, this thick, heavy brain fog would roll in. That feeling where you can't think clearly, you can't find your words, it's terrifying. I remember the sleepless nights, tossing and turning, feeling hot and anxious. I remember the night sweats, waking up damp and exhausted. I remember all of it, and that feeling is so deeply rooted in my memory that I've spent the last decade of my life fine-tuning and learning everything I possibly could about this condition. I had to figure out what was really working and what was just noise. Today, I want to save you those 9 years of trial and error. I've distilled everything I've learned into 15 critical lessons. If you are over 60 and you feel any of those things I just described, please give me your attention. What you're about to hear could change everything. Let's jump right into it. The first and most important thing I learned is that inflammation is at the true root of insulin resistance. For years, I thought it was purely a carbohydrate problem. Carbs are bad. Sugar is the enemy. And please, don't get me wrong, carbohydrates absolutely play a role. When your metabolism is broken, your body just does not handle carbs well. But what I remember is that I would try so many things. I would restrict carbs to the point where I was doing unhealthy things. I was starving my body, and I would just become more inflamed, more stressed, and more frustrated. The moment I learned that inflammation was the cause, not just a side effect, it changed the entire game. Here's the simple version. Think of your cells like a tiny house with a locked door. Insulin is the key. When you eat, insulin's job is to unlock that door to let the sugar, glucose, inside to be used for energy. But inflammation is like covering that entire door and the keyhole with thick, sticky mud. Insulin, the key is there. It's trying to get in the lock, but it can't. The signal is blocked, so the sugar, the glucose, it's left outside, wandering around in your bloodstream, where it causes all sorts of damage. Your body's goal isn't to never eat a carbohydrate again. The goal is to get the inflammation under control. The goal is to clean the mud off the door. When you get the inflammation down, you'll be amazed at how your body starts to function well again. The second thing I learned was about something called glycation. This sounds complicated, but it's a very simple and very destructive process. Glycation is what happens when sugar in your bloodstream sticks to your proteins and your fats. Think of it like sugar caramelizing your insides. It creates these nasty, brittle compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. This internal crusting is a major driver of inflammation. It's a huge part of the reason you feel foggy, the reason you feel achy, and the reason your joints hurt. It's literally making your tissues stiff and old before their time. But I learned there's a powerful defender against this. Carnosine. Carnosine is an amino acid that blocks the very root of this glycation process. It acts like a shield, protecting your proteins from getting caramelized by sugar. For me, supplementing with 4 to 6 grams of carnosine per day was an absolute game changer. I felt the fog lift. I felt the aches start to ease. Many people who have followed this advice have said the exact same thing. It is a simple, powerful, low-hanging fruit. Of course, always talk to your doctor before starting any new supplement, but this is one to ask them about. This one was a shock. I learned that insulin resistance doesn't start in the pancreas or the liver, it starts in your muscle. It is so easy for us to think of this as just an organ disease. My pancreas is broken, period. That's what I thought. But the new science is clear. Your muscle is not just for moving you around. It is a powerful signaling organ. It's a metabolic powerhouse that sends out signals telling your brain and your other organs what to do. Here's the most important takeaway. Your muscle is your primary glucose sponge. When you eat carbs, over 80% of that sugar is supposed to be stored in your muscles. But here is the challenge for those of us over 60. We are all fighting a natural process of age-related muscle loss. If you are losing muscle, you are losing your glucose sponge. You're losing the storage tank for the sugar you eat. So where does it go? It stays in your blood. For so long, I just did cardio. I walked, I got on the elliptical because I just wanted to get the weight off. But that's just scratching one itch. The other major itch is actually restoring the very organ that helps insulin resistance go away in the first place. You must do resistance training. Now, this does not mean you need to become a bodybuilder. It means you need to challenge your muscles. Do squats in a chair. Do wall push-ups. Lift a jug of milk. Use a simple resistance band. This stress on the muscles begins a powerful feedback loop that tells your body to start listening to insulin again. The fourth thing I learned is that certain mineral deficiencies can make insulin resistance much, much worse. Recently, I learned the critical importance of calcium. This was a surprise to me, but your body is incredibly smart. If you become deficient in a critical mineral like calcium, your brain will increase your appetite. It will scream, "Eat," hoping that you will stumble upon the nutrient it's missing. This can lead to relentless cravings and overeating, which just fuels the fire. I saw huge changes in my own insulin resistance when I started consuming more healthy dairy. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I thought dairy was inflammatory, and some of it is. We are not talking about sugary yogurts or low-fat milk. We're talking about good quality, aged cheeses. We're talking about heavy cream in your coffee. These healthy dairy fats, in moderation, not only gave my body the calcium it was craving, but they also contain other good things, like conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, which can actually help your metabolism. My appetite changed. My sensitivity changed. Don't be afraid of these healthy, traditional fats. They could be exactly what your body is asking for. The fifth thing I learned was that fats, at the wrong time and in the wrong combination, are a disaster. The main problem is when they are combined with high amounts of carbohydrates. Think of your cell's tiny engines, the mitochondria. These engines are what burn your food for fuel. They can burn gasoline, which is carbs, or they can burn diesel, which is fat. They are happy to burn either one. But the standard American diet, the pizza, the donuts, the French fries with a milkshake, the pastries, is like pouring both gasoline and diesel into the engine at the exact same time. You get a mitochondrial traffic jam. The engine floods. It chokes. It doesn't know how to partition these fuels, so it just shuts down. This creates a massive backlog, driving up inflammation and making your insulin resistance so much worse. What do you do with this? The solution is beautifully simple. Separate them. If you can, try not to have high-fat and high-carb foods in the same meal. Build your meal around protein and healthy fats. A piece of salmon with asparagus and olive oil. A steak with a big green salad. An avocado with your eggs. Or build a meal around protein and cleaner carbohydrates. When I stopped causing that traffic jam inside my cells, everything started to fall into place. You've probably seen the advertisements for the new weight loss drugs. They work by mimicking a hormone in your body called GLP-1. What I learned is that we can naturally induce this hormone with certain foods. You see, these drugs weren't first discovered for appetite suppression. They were first used for glucose control. Their main job is to help with insulin resistance. The appetite part is just a side effect. This hormone, GLP-1, essentially tells your pancreas, "Hey, food is coming, get the insulin ready." It also tells your brain, "We're satisfied, you can stop eating now." So how do we trigger this? First, protein. A high-protein meal is one of the strongest signals for GLP-1. Second, soluble fiber. Things like oats, beans, apples, and Brussels sprouts. And third, a natural ray sugar called allulose. It doesn't raise blood sugar, but it strongly encourages your body to produce its own GLP-1. Once I realized this wasn't about suppressing my appetite, but about modulating my glucose, I started using these tools. I focused on protein, I added soluble fiber, and I used a little allulose. I saw a major difference in my glucose levels. The seventh thing I learned is that your gut microbiome plays a massive role in insulin resistance. We have trillions of tiny helpers living in our gut. We tend to think their only job is to help us digest, but they do so much more. They are a signaling factory. When you feed them the right foods, like fiber, they break it down and produce something called short-chain fatty acids. These compounds are critical for your metabolic health. They send signals to your entire body, influencing glucose homeostasis and calming inflammation. If your gut is a mess, if the bad bacteria have taken over, your blood sugar will be a mess too. It's that simple. So, how do you take care of your gut? You need to repopulate it with good guys. This is where fermented foods are so powerful. Things like real sauerkraut, kimchi, plain kefir, or plain unsweetened yogurt. These are probiotics. And then you need to feed those good guys. That's prebiotic fiber. You find this in things like onions, garlic, asparagus, and Jerusalem artichokes. When I started to heal my gut, I started to heal my metabolism. They are not separate. This is one of the most powerful and lowest hanging levers you can possibly pull. What I learned is called the second meal effect. It means that what you eat for breakfast can dramatically impact how your body responds to lunch, and even dinner. If you eat a breakfast that's high in glycemic carbohydrates, a bagel, a sugary cereal, a muffin, or just toast and orange juice, you are starting a blood sugar roller coaster. You spike your glucose and insulin first thing in the morning. This panics your system. You are priming your body to fail at your next meal. But if you protein preload your day, you change the entire game. We have strong evidence that when you start your day with a high-protein, low-glycemic breakfast, like scrambled eggs with spinach or a high-quality sausage, you set a stable, gentle wave for the rest of the day. Your glucose response to the next meal can be reduced by 30 to 40%. When I stopped thinking about just one meal at a time and started thinking one step ahead, it was easier than micromanaging every single thing I ate. Change your breakfast, and you can change your entire day. The next thing I learned is that insulin resistance, fatty liver, and visceral fat all live under the same roof. They are not three separate problems. They are three heads of the same monster. It works like this. Insulin resistance often causes fatty liver. A fatty, dysfunctional liver then makes insulin resistance worse. This vicious cycle leads to the accumulation of visceral fat. This is the dangerous stat. It's not the fat you can pinch on your belly. It's the internal fat that wraps around your organs, like your liver and intestines. This fat is a non-stop inflammation factory, spewing out inflammatory signals 24/7. More visceral fat leads to more inflammation. More inflammation leads to more insulin resistance, and the cycle spins out of control. So how do we fight this? We have to give the body a break. This is where time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting is so powerful. It doesn't have to be extreme. It can be as simple as finishing dinner by 7 p.m. and not eating again until 9 a.m. the next morning. That 14-hour break gives your body a chance to stop storing and start cleaning house. It finally gets a chance to burn that dangerous internal visceral fat for fuel. In the first few years of getting rid of my insulin resistance, I learned that if I was deficient in magnesium, some of my symptoms would come right back. The fog, the aches, the bad sleep. Here's why. If insulin is the key and inflammation is the mud, magnesium is the oil for the lock. Our insulin receptors, the locks on our cells, simply do not work well if we are deficient in magnesium. Magnesium helps the receptors become more sensitive to insulin, allowing the key to turn smoothly. This is a huge problem because most of us are deficient in this critical mineral. We need it for over 300 processes in our body, but especially for this one. If you have muscle cramps, anxiety, or trouble sleeping, you are almost certainly low on magnesium. You can get it from dark leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard, nuts and seeds. But honestly, most of us, especially those with insulin resistance, benefit from a good supplement. Talk to your doctor about magnesium glycinate, which is gentle and highly effective. This is the point I really want you to hear. This is the hope. After feeling so broken for so long, I thought this would be a lifelong uphill battle. But I learned that you can see huge improvements in insulin sensitivity in just short periods of time. Independent of calories, independent of weight loss, just 4 or 5 days of time-restricted feeding. Giving your body that 14 to 16-hour break from food can cause massive changes. Why? You're giving your pancreas its first vacation in decades. You're giving your body a chance to finally reset. The inflammation starts to cool down. The mud starts to get cleaned off the cell doors. Your body gets a chance to recalibrate. It is not a life sentence. Your body wants to heal. This is the non-negotiable. If you are not sleeping, you will not fix this. I learned that just one night of poor sleep can make your insulin resistance 20 to 40% worse the very next day. Think about that. One bad night can make a perfectly healthy person look pre-diabetic on a lab test. Imagine what it's doing to those of us already struggling. But telling someone over 60 to just get more sleep is useless. We know it's hard. Our sleep is interrupted by anxiety, by pain, and of course, by the bladder. I learned about 3 powerful gentle helpers. Theanine, 200 to 400 milligrams. This amino acid from green tea calms that buzzing feeling in your brain without making you drowsy. Glycine, 3 to 5 grams. This is a miracle for many. It's an amino acid that does 2 things. It helps you fall asleep and stay asleep. And it helps relax the bladder, which can mean fewer of those 3 a.m. trips to the bathroom. Saffron, 20 to 30 milligrams of a good extract. This is being shown to help you feel more calm and relaxed, easing you into a deeper sleep. Fixing your sleep is the best short-term fix I have ever found. Number 13, the woo-woo that actually works. The 13th thing I learned is that red light therapy actually works. I was so resistant to this. I thought it was science fiction, just woo-woo. I used it for a while for circadian rhythm, but I didn't understand the metabolic effect until recently. The science is now very real. Our cell engines, the mitochondria, are photosynthetic. They respond to light. Red light, at a specific wavelength, influences a critical part of that engine. In simple terms, it helps the electrons from your food get through the engine better and turn into actual energy, ATP. It's like a tune-up for your mitochondria, helping them burn fuel more efficiently. But here's the most exciting part. We're now seeing that red light can help with GLUT4 translocation. That is a fancy way of saying it helps your cells pull glucose out of your bloodstream after a meal. Getting 10 to 15 minutes of real morning sunlight on your skin is the free version. Using a red light panel is the high-tech version. Both are powerful. Number 14, the jumper cable for your cells. This next one is a bit more advanced, and it's one you must talk to a qualified doctor about. But it was a huge piece of the puzzle for me. Methylene blue. If your mitochondria, your cell engines, are truly stalled out and dysfunctional from years of metabolic damage, methylene blue can act like a jumper cable. It helps electrons, the energy from your food, bypass the broken parts of the engine and get all the way through, forcing the engine to turn over and start producing energy again. It can kickstart your mitochondria back into using fuel. You don't want dead, dying mitochondria. You want them active. This is a way to jolt them back to life. Again, This is an advanced topic, so please do your research and find a knowledgeable doctor. Number 15. Carbohydrates are not the cause. And the final and most recent thing that I've learned is that carbohydrates aren't the cause of insulin resistance. Having a problem with carbohydrates is a side effect. It is the symptom of the underlying problem. For 9 years, I thought carbs were the enemy. I was wrong. My inability to handle them was the problem. If you go long enough without carbs, your body just forgets how to use them. You lose the enzymes and the metabolic machinery to process them at all. This is like having a broken leg. You can use crutches, a permanent low-carb diet, for the rest of your life, and that's fine if you choose to. But you can also do the physical therapy. You can do all the things we've just talked about. Fight inflammation, build muscle, fix your sleep, heal your gut, to retrain your body to use carbs again. The goal isn't to be fragile. The goal is metabolic flexibility. The goal is to have a body that knows how to use both fuels, fats and carbs. So that when Thanksgiving comes, or your grandchild's birthday, you can have that slice of pumpkin pie or that piece of cake, and your body doesn't panic. It knows exactly what to do with it. You enjoy it, and you move on. That is true health. That is true freedom. These 15 lessons didn't just help me lose weight. They gave me my mind back. They gave me my energy back. They gave me my life back. I truly hope they can help you too. It's not about being perfect tomorrow. It's about progress. Just pick one of these things. Start with one. You have the power to heal.